before it's too late.
Mauritius not only has the rarest tree in the world, it is home to arguably the world's rarest bird. Of the 15 left in existence, only 5 are female. It's the echo parakeet, and this pair are the first to be filmed together in the wild. The female is the one on the right.
The echo parakeet is the most endangered, but it's also the one that we've done the least amount of work on. We've been feeding the birds to make sure that they got enough food. And we've been learning the techniques of how to manage wild parrots. It's actually a very interesting bird. It's the last parrot left in Mauritius, and we think there were at least 4 species here originally. And it's the last of a group of parakeets that were found on all the Indian Ocean islands. They were found on Seychelles, Rodrigues, Réunion. And Mauritius has the last population of these setacular parakeets. When we first discovered that it was critically endangered and was down to just single individuals in the wild, we said, well, what can we do about it? Most conservationists said, give up. You know, it's not worth working with it. The resources just don't exist. We've discovered that we can actually increase their productivity in the wild by harvesting first clutches of eggs. They lay another clutch of eggs, and we can raise the first lot in captivity. And we have reared several in captivity very successfully, rearing them under foster ringneck parakeets. Regrettably, they're not as easy to keep as most other species of parakeets. These are critically endangered birds with lots and lots of problems. And some of the birds have actually been dying in captivity. This is a great tragedy. What on earth do you do? You've got the world's rarest parrot, you're doing all you can for it, you put them in cages, some of them die. But, you know, we've got to stay with it. You've got to realize that when you are working with species that you know very little about their biology, these are the first ones ever to be brought into captivity. Of course you're going to make mistakes. Of course some of them aren't going to make it. But you've got to learn from those mistakes, and we've got to get our act together. The birds that have died in captivity have been surplus to requirements in the wild. They've been from harvested eggs, or in a few cases, the birds we've rescued from failing nests. So these are our experimental material. We shouldn't be experimenting at the last minute, but we've got no option. It's really a myth when people say you need millions of pounds to save endangered species. That's totally wrong. A lot can actually be done with rather modest amounts of money, but the most important thing that's required is enthusiastic and competent staff and continuity. If anybody thinks they can save an endangered species in just 3 or 4 years, they're kidding. You know, the only way to do it is a long-term commitment, because when you actually start with a species, you don't know what the problems are going to be. With the kestrel, we're now nearly finished working with that species, but it's taken 20 years. We're starting with the echo parakeet, and I think we'll probably still be working at it in 50 years' time. But if we want these things around, we've got to make a commitment. It doesn't have to be a big commitment, but it has to be a long-term commitment. And I think that is the only way we can save them.
As we look at these pictures of Carl and his kestrels, it's worth reflecting for a moment that if it wasn't for Carl and people like him, where this bird is now, there would just be an empty space forever.